Baby, let me tell you something straight off the cop so you don't think I'm out here exaggerating for YouTube clicks. Yes, my son Chris stood up right in the middle of Suzanne's baby shower and cussed the whole damn room out. Yep, in front of family, neighbors, church folks, co-workers, even the pastor's wife who only came for the free potato salad. Chris slammed his hand on the table, flipped a whole tray of cupcakes and shouted, "I'm sick of all y'all. Get the hell out. Ain't no baby shower, 'cause I ain't the damn father." And baby, the room went silent. You could have heard a mosquito clear its throat. And yes, sugar, the real father was my own brother. Lord help me, I almost fainted like a Baptist woman at a revival. But let Mama Mae walk you through how this mess even started. 'Cause drama like this don't just pop up like popcorn. No, baby, this was slow-cooked drama. The kind that simmers for weeks, real quiet, then explodes loud enough to wake their ancestors. It all kicked off about 6 weeks before the baby shower. I was in my kitchen frying catfish, minding my business, humming my little Al Green, when Chris came knocking like the police. Hard, fast, panicked. I opened the door and that boy looked ruined. Not sad, ruined. Eyes red, face pale, shoulders slumped like he was carrying the whole damn world. "Mama, can I talk to you?" he said, voice cracking like a cheap phone charger. I pulled him inside quick. Anytime your grown son calls you mama in that little boy voice, something heavy is coming. I sat him at the table, fixed him a glass of cold sweet tea, extra ice, 'cause nobody should be confessing pain with a dry throat. I sat down across from him and said, "All right, baby, what's got your spirit dragging like that?" He reeled both hands over his face. "His Suzanne." My eyebrow lifted because Suzanne always acted sweet. Real soft voice, real polite, always bringing cookies to family gatherings like she trying to be on the cover of Good Housekeeping. But I don't care how pretty a woman is. Sometimes they smile be hiding a whole storm season. "What about it?" I asked. Chris swallowed hard. "Mama, I don't think the baby is mine." Baby, when my son said that, my whole kitchen went still. Even the frying pan stopped sizzling like it knew this was serious business. I leaned in. "Why you say something like that? You better not be jumping to no crazy conclusions." Chris shook his head. "I ain't jumping, Mama. I seen things." My stomach tightened. "What things?" He took a breath so shaky it made me nervous. Suzanne changed the due date. Twice. I blinked slow. Twice? What she think pregnancy is, a delivery app with tracking updates? Chris looked down. She said the doctor miscalculated. But Mama, that ain't even the worst part. It's Uncle David. My soul jumped. My brother David? Mr. Perfect? Mr. College Professor? Mr. Big Words and Bible quotes? That man? I felt my pressure rising already. I said, "What about him?" Chris sighed heavy. "Suzanne acts weird around him, like scared and guilty, and I walked in once and they jumped apart like teenagers caught doing something nasty." My whole face dropped. "Chris, tell me the whole truth." He nodded slowly. I checked her old photos. "Lord Jesus," I whispered, "that ain't never good." He pulled out his phone and showed me a picture. Suzanne sitting in a college classroom and leaning over her desk, smiling down at her like she was dessert, was my brother David. Real familiar, real close, too close. The date stamp said 4 years ago, the exact year Suzanne was his student. I felt my soul leave my body, walk to the living room and sit down from shock. Chris kept talking. "Mama? She told me she barely knew him back then." I scoffed. "Baby, that ain't barely knowing. That there looked like extra credit." Then Chris reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. My stomach dropped. Nothing good comes from paper pulled out slow. "What's that?" I asked. "A note," he whispered. "Found it in her old journal in the back of the closet." I unfolded it and baby, the handwriting slapped me in the face. Clean, curly, fancy, looked like somebody wrote it with a feather pen dipped in lies.
It read, "We can't let this get out. We risk too much already." No signature. Didn't need one. I knew my brother's handwriting anywhere. I used to forge it to get out of gym class. Chris's voice broke. "Mama, I think they had a relationship back then, and I think it never ended." I almost threw my church wig into the deep fryer. He kept going, voice trembling. "And Mama, the doctor said the baby looks further along than Suzanne claimed." I closed my eyes because the truth was sitting right in front of us like an uninvited guest. I grabbed his hands. "Baby, you got to talk to her. She need to tell the truth from her own mouth." Chris nodded. "That's why I ain't confronted her yet. I want her to say it in front of people. I don't want her lying her way out." I stared at him. "Chris, that's a dangerous plan." He looked up with the emptiest eyes I ever seen on that boy. "Mama, the danger already happened." And baby, that's how we ended up at that disaster of a baby shower. Baby, when the day of that baby shower rolled around, I already had a bad feeling in my left knee. And every time my left knee act up, somebody's life about to turn upside down. I woke up early, lit a candle, made some cinnamon rolls, and prayed a quick prayer like, "Lord, put bubble wrap around my blood pressure today, 'cause I know it's gonna get tested." But even with prayer and pastry, nothing could have prepared me for the mess Chris was about to unleash. The baby shower was at our community hall. Big room, wooden floors, them cheap white folding chairs that always wobble on one side. Suzanne had decorated everything in soft yellows and greens, talking about we wanted gender neutral, classy, elegant. Baby, it looked like Pinterest threw up in there. Balloons everywhere, little signs that said baby love, a table full of tiny sandwiches that didn't have enough meat on them to satisfy a squirrel. The whole place smelled like lavender and lies. Suzanne walked around greeting folks, rubbing her belly, smiling all sweet like she ain't been hiding a whole scandal in her uterus. I watched her close, real close, because once you know the truth like the one Chris told me, you start seeing everything different. Every smile she gave looked forced. Every time she glanced at my brother David, her face twitched like she saw a ghost wearing a suit. And speaking of my brother, he strolled in late, all confident, wearing that professor "I'm smarter than everybody in here" look. He hugged Suzanne a little too long, not inappropriate enough for folks to notice, but long enough for somebody who knew the truth to feel sick. And baby, I felt sick, like I wanted to grab a folding chair and WWE slam him into the cupcake tower. I kept looking around for Chris. He wasn't there yet, and that worried me. I'm his mama. I know his moods, and I could tell he wasn't just hurt. He was furious. The kind of fury that sits under the skin, quiet and waiting. The kind of fury you gotta keep an eye on, 'cause once it pops out, ain't no putting it back like toothpaste. Then right as folks started settling down to eat them dry-ass sandwiches, Chris walked in. Baby, when I say the whole room shifted, I mean the air changed. Chris wasn't dressed up. He wore regular jeans, a black t-shirt, and that expression a man gets when his soul been cracked open. He wasn't smiling, wasn't greeting nobody. He walked in with purpose, with weight, with a storm following right behind him. Suzanne saw him and her face fell. Not guilty, not scared, terrified. Her hands flew up to her belly like she thought Chris was about to rip the truth right out of her. "Chris, baby, where you been?" she asked, voice shaking. But he didn't answer. He just stared at her like she was a person he used to know, and something inside him had died since then. I went over and whispered, "Baby, please, breathe. Think before you do something wild." Chris didn't even blink. "Mama, I'm done thinking." I swear, my stomach dropped to my ankles, 'cause when a man says he done thinking, baby, he already made a decision he came back away from. Everybody gathered around the gift table. Suzanne stood in the center, hands on her belly like she was posing for a magazine cover. David stood a few steps behind her, trying to act normal, but his eyes were darting around like a man who knows a bomb is under the table. The pastor cleared his throat and said, "Let us bow our heads and thank the—" Chris cut him off. Loud, sharp, final. "No, ain't nobody bowing nothing." The whole room froze. I swear the balloons even stopped floating. Chris walked to the middle of the room, stood right next to Suzanne. Everyone watched him like he was about to announce the winning lottery numbers. Chris said, "Mama told me not to ruin this day." But the day was already ruined the moment the truth got hidden. Suzanne's lip trembled. "Chris, please don't." He held up his hand. "Nah, you had months to tell the truth. I'm telling it for you." "Then, baby," he snapped, "I ain't the father of this baby." Gasps everywhere. One lady dropped a plate so hard the potato salad slapped the floor like it owed her money. Suzanne burst into tears instantly, shaking her head, whispering, "Chris, please stop, please." Chris turned to my brother slow, measured, like a man turning toward his final target. "Uncle David," he said, voice low, deadly calm. "You want to explain to everybody why my wife acts like she's about to pass out every time you walk in a room?" David froze. His whole face went pale like chalk. Folks looked around confused, whispering, "What he mean? What he saying?" Chris kept going. "You think I ain't seen the pictures, the notes, the messages from when she was your student? Baby, you could have heard a moth sneeze." Suzanne covered her face and sobbed harder. David stepped forward, hands shaking. "Chris, calm down. Let's talk outside, please." Chris snapped. "Man, you been talking to my wife outside for years. Ain't gonna be no more outside." Then he grabbed one of the decorations, one of those big cardboard letters spelling out "baby," and he threw it across the room so hard it hit the punch bowl and exploded red juice everywhere like somebody got shot at a cookout. I screamed out, "Chris, baby, stop!" But he wasn't listening. He was exploding, years of betrayal pouring out of him all at once. People were scrambling, backing up, whispering, recording on their phones like TMZ interns. Suzanne cried out, "Chris, please listen." He cut her off with the coldest words I ever heard come out of my child's mouth. "That baby ain't mine, and you've been protecting the man who did make it." Everybody turned to David. And baby, his silence said everything. Whew. Baby, when Chris said those words, "You've been protecting the man who did make it," the whole room froze up like God hit the pause button. Folks stood there wide-eyed, cups in midair, sandwiches halfway to their mouths. Kids stopping mid-chew like somebody unplugged the world. And me, I felt my knees go weak. Not just weak, gone. I grabbed the back of her chest so I wouldn't embarrass myself and passing out in front of the pastor's wife. Suzanne let out a scream, one of those long, ugly, painful screams that sound like a soul cracking. She covered her face, shaking her head over and over, but she didn't deny it. She didn't say, "You lying." She didn't say, "That's not true." She just cried, hard. And baby, guilt got a certain cry. I raised kids. I babysat half the neighborhood. There's regular crying, and then there's, "I've been caught doing something real foul" crying. And that's exactly what she was doing. David stepped forward, hand shaking like he had Parkinson's. "Chris, let's talk outside, please." He kept looking around like he was searching for a trap door to escape through. Chris laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that make your bones cold. "Outside? You want to talk outside? You should have thought about that before you was sneaking around with my wife." People gasped again. I swear if gasping had a meter like electricity, we could have powered the whole block off the amount happening in that room. Suzanne cried harder. "Chris, stop, please. I can explain. I swear I can explain." Chris cut her off with the coldest words I ever heard come out of my child's mouth. "That baby ain't mine, and you've been protecting the man who did make it." Everybody turned to David. And baby, his silence said everything. Baby, when Chris said those words, "You've been protecting the man who did make it," the whole room froze up like God hit the pause button.
Folks stood there wide-eyed, cups in mid-air, sandwiches halfway to their mouths, kids stopping mid-chew like somebody unplugged the world. And me? I felt my knees go weak. Not just weak, gone. I grabbed the back of a chair so I wouldn't embarrass myself by passing out in front of the pastor's wife. Suzanne let out a scream, one of those long, ugly, painful screams that sound like a soul cracking. She covered her face, shaking her head over and over, but she didn't deny it. She didn't say, "You're lying," didn't say, "That's not true." She just cried, hard. And baby, guilt got a certain cry. I've raised kids. I babysat half the neighborhood. There's regular crying, and then there's "I've been caught doing something real foul" crying. And that's exactly what she was doing. David stepped forward, hands shaking like he had Parkinson's. "Chris, let's talk outside, please." He kept looking around like he was searching for a trap door to escape through. Chris laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that make your bones cold. "Outside? You want to talk outside? You should have thought about that before you were sneaking around with my wife." People gasped again. I swear if gasping had a meter like electricity, we could have powered the whole block off the amount happening in that room. Suzanne cried harder. "Chris, stop, please. I can explain. I swear I can explain." Chris turned and finally snapped. "Explain what, Suzanne? How you got with a whole married man? How you played me for 2 damn years? How you hid a whole secret like I'm stupid?" I ran over and grabbed his arm. "Baby, please, listen to Mama. This ain't the time. You gonna end up hurting yourself or hurting somebody else." "Mama," he said, voice shaking so deep it sounded like it came from his childhood. "Mama, he was my uncle. He was family. How he gonna do me like this?" My heart broke all over again. Not just cracked, shattered. 'Cause I raised both those boys. David was older, always looked up to like the smart one, the calm one, the respectable professor. And here he was, standing in my face looking like a fraud somebody blew the cover off. Folks started whispering, loud enough to hear, "He slept with his nephew's wife? Lord Jesus, wasn't he her professor in college? Wait, she was a student? Oh, that's nasty." I knew something was off with him, always too friendly. David put both hands up like he was surrendering to police. "Everybody just calm down. You all misunderstand." Chris lunged. Baby, when I say lunged, I mean he flew at David like he'd been launched out of cannon. I screamed so loud I scared myself. Men jumped in fast. 2 uncles, Pastor Jeff, even Mr. Harold from across the street who got a bad hip. They all grabbed Chris and held him back before he could swing. "Let me go," Chris yelled, tears running down his face. "I swear to God, Mama, let me go." I held his face in my hands. "Baby, look at me. Look at Mama. Stop. Please stop." My voice was breaking too, 'cause nothing hurts more than seeing your child hurt. Suzanne fell to her knees, sobbing hysterically. "Chris, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It wasn't supposed to happen. I was young. I was confused. He said he loved me." Baby, when she said that, I saw Chris's whole world collapse. Right in front of me, right there on them dusty wooden floors beneath them cheap balloons. He whispered, "Loved you? My uncle told you that?" David cut in quick. "Suzanne, stop. Just stop right now." But she kept crying. I didn't mean for it to keep going. I didn't mean for this to happen. It wasn't supposed to turn into a baby. So it is his? Silence. Silent like a graveyard at midnight. Silent like even God didn't know what to say. Suzanne nodded. Tiny, small, guilty. My son crumbled. Not just emotionally, physically. His knees buckled and he'd have hit the floor if I didn't hold him. He sobbed into my shoulder like he was 5 years old again and scraped his knee. Except this wasn't no scraped knee. This was heartbreak, betrayal, humiliation, rage, all wrapped in one. I stroked his back, whispering, "It's okay, baby. Mama got you. Mama got you. Breathe, baby, breathe." Then I heard a voice behind me, low and furious. It was my cousin Lorraine. "David, you nasty. You nasty as hell. That's your nephew's wife?" More murmurs, more disgust. Folks started packing up their gifts and heading for the exit, giving David looks like he was a villain in a Lifetime movie. Somebody whispered, "He need to lose his job for that mess." Another said, "Ain't that illegal?" Suzanne cried harder. "Chris, please, I still love you." He lifted his head, looked at her with eyes full of nothing but pain, and said, "Don't love me. Love the man you let do this to our family." David stepped forward. "Chris, I'm sorry. I made a mistake." "A mistake? A mistake? You slept with my wife. You got her pregnant. That ain't no mistake. That's a choice." I stood between them because I knew Chris was seconds away from breaking David's jaw. "Mama, move," he said, voice low, shaking. "I ain't gonna touch you, but he deserved everything that's coming to him." I whispered, "Not here. Not like this, baby." Then the moment everything truly shifted happened. Chris wiped his face, stood tall, and said 3 words that shook the whole room. "You're dead to me." David reached for him. "Chris, don't do that." Chris stepped that. "You ain't family. Not no more." And baby, that's when the real revenge began. Baby, when Chris said, "Yo, dead to me," that whole room felt like somebody unplugged it from the wall. Everything just stopped. Even the music that was softly playing from that little Bluetooth speaker fizzled out like it got embarrassed. Folks stood around awkward, clutching their purses, their coats, their children, not knowing whether to keep staring or hurry the hell out before the situation turned into a full-blown Lifetime special with police tape.
David just stood there frozen, looking like a kid who cheated on a test and got caught in front of the whole school. His eyes darted around the room like he was looking for an ally, but baby, even the church folks who usually forgive anybody were giving him side eyes sharp enough to slice cheese. I grabbed Chris's arm, feeling his whole body trembling. "Baby, breathe," I whispered. "Please breathe. Mama's right here." Chris wiped his face hard, breath hitching. "Mama, he took everything from me. Everything." His eyes were wild, like his soul didn't know where to sit no more. Suzanne was still on the floor, crying into her hands. I ain't gonna lie, part of me felt sorry for her because she looked pitiful. But the other part? Baby, the other part wanted to toss one of them baby shower centerpieces right at the back of her head. Betraying my son and expecting sympathy? No, ma'am. David tried taking another step forward. "Chris, listen." Chris pointed at him so fast and so sharp that David flinched. "Say one more word, and I swear to God, uncle or not, I'll break your damn jaw right here in front of everybody." David's mouth shut up, finally. That man should have stopped talking years ago. People started whispering louder. Wasn't he her professor? He groomed her. His own nephew's wife? He should be in jail. You can't trust no man with glasses like that. I always said it. I tell you, black folks love a scandal, but this wasn't even fun gossip no more. This was the kind of mess that stayed in a whole family name for years. I looked at the pastor. Pastor Jeff looked back at me like, I don't get paid enough for this. Then came the moment everything tilted even further. Suzanne stood up, slow, shaky, tears running down her face like rain on a windshield. "Chris, I'll leave. I'll pack my things. I'll give you space." Chris let out a cold laugh. "Pack? Girl, don't pack. Don't take nothing. You ain't staying in my house another damn night." She sobbed harder. "Chris, please, I don't want to lose you." "You been lost me," he snapped. "The minute you slept with him, you buried everything we built." David whispered, "Chris, I can help financially." Chris exploded so violently, 2 men grabbed him again. "Help what? Help raise the baby you made? Help fix the mess you created? You think money gonna fix this? You think writing a check gonna make your betrayal disappear?" He shook his head fast. "I'm just trying to..." "Shut up," Chris roared, voice breaking.
You ain't trying to do nothing but save your own image, 'cause you know when the school find out you mess with a student, your student, you done. A wave of whispers hit the room like a gust of wind. He could lose his whole career. That's illegal in most states. He always seemed too friendly with them girls. Suzanne covered her mouth, whispering, "Please stop, Chris, please." But Chris wasn't hearing none of it. His whole face was twisted in pain and anger and heartbreak all shoved together. I wrapped my arm around him. "Baby, listen to Mama. We need to leave. We ain't staying here to give these folks a free show." He nodded slowly, breathing hard. I turned to Suzanne. "You need to get your things, and you need to call your mama. You ain't going home with my son tonight." She sobbed. "Mama Mae, please don't hate me." I looked at her so cold she flinched. "I don't hate you, baby, but I damn sure don't respect what you did." David tried speaking again. "Mae, please." I didn't even let him finish. I walked right up to him, nose to nose, and said real quiet so only he could hear, "You broke my boy's spirit. You ripped him open. You betrayed him and me. I ain't never gonna forgive that. Not in this lifetime, not in the next." He swallowed hard. His whole body shook. By then, folks was leaving fast. Somebody grabbed the gifts to take 'em outside, and I heard one lady mutter, "This the worst baby shower I ever attended." Somebody else said, "Shoot, this better than Netflix." Chris stormed toward the exit. I followed, keeping my hand on his back so he didn't fall apart again. But right before we stepped outside, Suzanne called out, voice cracking,
"Chris, I'm sorry, but I still love you." Chris stopped dead, turned slow, and said with a voice so cold it made my skin crawl, "You don't love me. You love attention. You love secrets. You love getting saved by men who ain't me. You don't love me." She broke down again. We walked out into the parking lot. Cool air hit us, and for a second, Chris just stood there under the streetlight, looking lost, real lost, like a man standing in the middle of a life he didn't recognize no more. "Mama," he whispered, "what do I even do now?" I held his face in my hands. "Baby, first thing we do is go home. You don't make no decisions angry. You get quiet. You breathe. You let Mama handle what needs handling." He nodded, leaning on me. But before we got in the car, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it. And baby, it was a screenshot. A screenshot of David and Suzanne's messages. And the sender wrote, "This ain't even half of it." I looked around the empty parking lot. Somebody was watching, and somebody wanted this whole mess to get bigger. Baby, when I tell you that text almost made me drop my phone right there in that parking lot, I ain't lying. My fingers went numb. My heart started tap dancing in my chest. I stared at that screen like it was a snake about to bite me. A screenshot of David and Suzanne's messages, and the sender wrote, "This ain't even half of it." I turned around slow, like one of them scenes in them old detective movies, trying to see who the hell could have sent that. But the parking lot was empty except for cars and one flickering street lamp buzzing like it was confused about its purpose in life. Chris leaned against the car, still looking broken. "Mama, who texted you?" I swallowed and tucked the phone in my purse real quick. I didn't want to dump more gasoline on his emotional wildfire. "Don't worry about that right now, baby," I said gentle. "We gon' get home first." He nodded, but his eyes were distant, unfocused,
like his brain was replaying the whole nightmare on a loop. We got in the car. He stared out the window the whole ride, jaw clenched, hands shaking slightly. I didn't push him. Sometimes silence is the only medicine for a cracked spirit. When we got home, Chris went straight to his room and shut the door softly. Not a slam, not anger, just defeat. The kind of soft door close that tells you the soul behind it is tired, real tired. I went to the kitchen, sat at the table, and pulled out my phone. My hands were still shaking. I opened the screenshot. Baby, baby. My heart dropped to the bottom of my damn feet. These messages weren't flirtatious little notes. They weren't, oops, we messed up type conversations. Nah, these were full-on emotional affairs. Late-night confessions, pictures, meeting spots, talking about when Chris wasn't home. Suzanne telling David she felt safer with him. David telling her she deserved a man who understood her. Suzanne talking about how she felt trapped in her marriage. David promising her a future. My blood started boiling like a pot left on high heat. And the worst part wasn't even that. The worst part was a message from Suzanne. I think the baby is yours, but I don't know how to tell him. And David replied, don't, not yet. Let things fall apart naturally. I can't afford a scandal at the university. I swear to God, I almost threw my phone across the room. I had to take a deep breath before I combusted. I texted the unknown number back. Who is this? It delivered. No typing bubbles. No reply. Then a second later, friend. Baby, I ain't got no mysterious friends dropping drama receipts like Amazon packages. I typed, why you send this to me? It replied, because he deserves to know everything, and the professor ain't as clean as y'all think. My stomach twisted. What you mean? I typed. This time the reply was immediate. Check your front porch. Baby, when I tell you every single hair on the back of my neck stood up like it was getting drafted into the military, I ain't exaggerating. I got up, heart pounding, walked slow toward the door like I was in a horror movie, opened it. There was a manila envelope sitting on my porch. No name, no label, just a thick, stuffed envelope like somebody printed a few trees worth of paper and left it for me. I looked around quickly. Nobody there. No cars driving off, no footsteps, just stillness. I grabbed the envelope, shut the door fast, locked it, and took it back to the kitchen. I dumped the contents out. Baby, there were pictures. Old ones, new ones, Suzanne and David at restaurants, Suzanne sneaking into David's office at the college, a picture of them holding hands in a damn parking garage, another one of them sitting too close at a picnic table, date stamped on them. And then came the paper that made my heart fall clean out my chest. A printed email thread from the university talking about a complaint filed against Professor David Randall regarding inappropriate contact with a student. The student's name, Suzanne, 4 years ago. The complaint was mysteriously withdrawn a week later. Baby, I dropped back into my chair like the air got snatched out my lungs. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't just betrayal. My brother had a whole history, a whole pattern, and Suzanne wasn't the first, not even close. My phone buzzed again. Told you, not even half of it. I typed fast, why me? Why send me this? The reply came slow this time. Because you're the only one who'll do something. Baby, I froze. Me? Why me? Why they think I'm about to be the one to handle all this? I looked toward Chris's closed bedroom door, my baby boy, heart shattered like dropped glass, and I realized something right then. This wasn't just about cheating. This wasn't just about a baby. This was about a man, my brother, who'd been hurting people quietly for years behind his perfect professor mask, and now his sins had finally crawled out the dirt. I wasn't just hurt. I was furious, and the mama bear in me, baby, she was waking up. I got up from the table, paced the room, mind racing 100 miles a minute. Who sent the envelope? How did they know me? Why now? And what else did they know? One thing was clear. This wasn't over, not even close. And when I heard Chris start quietly crying behind his bedroom door, that sealed it. I wiped my eyes, clenched my fists, and whispered to myself, oh, I'm gonna handle this. Mama ain't playing no more. Because if David thought ruining my Chris's marriage was the only consequence he'd face, baby, he had no idea what was coming. Baby, when I say I didn't sleep that night, I mean I didn't close my eyes for even 5 damn minutes. I sat on that couch with that manila envelope in my lap like it was a bomb about to explode. Every time I flipped another page, another picture, another email, another receipt, it felt like my heart cracked a little more. Not because of Suzanne. Not because of Chris's marriage. Now, that pain was already deep. This new pain, this was about my brother. A man I trusted. A man I defended. A man I bragged about every holiday like he was God's gift to academia. And now here I was, looking at paperwork saying he'd been doing this predator mess for years. I felt sick. I felt stupid. I felt betrayed just like my son. And when a woman like me feels betrayed, baby, revenge don't just become an option. It becomes a damn responsibility. Around 6 a.m, Chris finally came out his room. His eyes were swollen, his face dull, his voice empty. Mama. I opened my arms and he collapsed into him like he was 5 years old again. And I held him long, tight, soft. I rubbed his back and whispered, you gonna get through this, baby. Mama ain't letting nobody break you. He pulled back and wiped his face. Mama, why he do that to me? Why he do that to us? I looked at him and as gentle as I could, I said, baby, some people don't love nobody but themselves, and you can't fix somebody who broken in the wrong places. Chris sat at the table, just sitting, silent, looking at the wall like it was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. That's when I knew it was time. I opened the envelope and slid the stack toward him. Mama, what's this? I said, proof. Proof of everything you deserve to know. He flipped through it slow, carefully, at first confused, then sad, then angry, then disgusted. His whole face shifted like storm clouds moving across the sky. He did this, he whispered. He been doing this. Yeah, baby. And whoever sent this wanted to make sure you saw every piece. He clenched his jaw and slammed the papers down. I'm pressing charges. I'm calling the school. I'm telling everybody. I held his hand. You gonna do it smart. You ain't gonna let rage mess up your justice. Chris nodded, breathing slow. What do I do first? And baby, this is where Mama Mae stepped into her full villain arc. You let Mama handle the university. His eyes lifted. Mama? No, baby. This ain't just about you no more. This man been touching students, lying with women way younger than him, manipulating folks. He ain't gonna hide behind no degree today. He swallowed. What about Suzanne? She gonna face the consequences she earned. She ain't innocent. But your uncle, he the root of all this rot. Right then, I heard a knock on the door. Not a soft knock, not a gentle one. A scared, guilty, panicked one. Suzanne.
She stood outside looking wrecked, hair a mess, face swollen, jacket thrown over pajamas. She looked like she cried through 3 universes and a whole alternate timeline. "Mama Mae, please, I need to talk to Chris." "No." I blocked the doorway. "You done enough talking. Go home." "Mama Mae, please, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for—" "You meant every choice. You may not like the result, but you meant the action." She shook her head, voice cracked. "Mama Mae, I swear to God, he manipulated me. Back in college, he pressured me. He made me feel like he'd ruin my grades if I didn't—" I stepped forward. "That the same excuse you using 4 years later, after marriage, after betraying my son 3 dozen times? Baby, don't you stand on my porch and rewrite your history." She sobbed harder. "I just want to fix things." "You can't fix a house you burned to the damn ground." She opened her mouth again, but I shut the door gently but firmly in her face. For once, she didn't bang, didn't fight, didn't yell. She walked away slow, head down, like a woman finally realizing she ruined everything she touched. Chris whispered behind me, "Thank you, Mama." I kissed his forehead. "You ain't facing this alone." By 9 a.m., I was dressed, hair done, purse in hand, car keys jingling. I looked at Chris. "Stay home today. Rest. Breathe. Let Mama go handle the first round." He nodded, exhaustion written all over him. I drove straight to the university. Baby, when I stepped on that campus with that manila envelope tucked under my arm like it was a holy scripture of justice, I had one mission: expose everything. I walked into the administrative office like I owned the damn building. The receptionist smiled politely. "Hello, ma'am. Can I help?" "Yes, you can. I need the Title IX office now." Her eyes widened. She pointed me down the hall. I marched in. The woman behind the desk looked up startled. Can I?" I dropped the envelope on her desk so hard dust flew up. "This," I said, "is a problem your university been ignoring. My brother, Professor David Randall, been sleeping with students for years. This ain't a rumor. This ain't anger. This is evidence." The woman's face drained of color. She started flipping through the papers, her eyes getting bigger by the second. Oh my God." "Yeah," I said, crossing my arms. "Oh my God is right. We had a complaint 4 years ago, but it was withdrawn. Withdrawn because he manipulated her. And guess what? He kept doing it." She stood up fast. "I need to call the dean immediately." "You do that, baby." She ran out the room. I heard her say, "Sir, you need to see this." I sat there calm like a queen, because when you come to take down a man who hid behind a shiny reputation, you do it steady, you do it smart, you do it loud. Within 10 minutes, 3 administrators came into the room in a panic. They all looked at me. "Ma'am, this is serious."
I leaned back. Y'all ain't even seen the half. They read through the stack. One of them looked up. "We're launching an immediate investigation, effective today." I smiled slow. Good, 'cause I ain't finished. They blinked. "There's more?" I stood, grabbed my purse, and said, "Baby, that man ruined my son's life. And now, his life about to get the same treatment." I walked out that building without looking back. And baby, that was the day the revenge truly hit daylight. Because some betrayals break hearts, but this one, it woke up the destroyer in Mama Mae. Baby, if you still sitting here to listen to Auntie Mae spill this tea, then you family now. Go on and tap that like button so this story don't sink into the shadows. And subscribe to Whispers of Auntie Mae so you don't miss the next chapter of life, love, and the mess folks try to hide when they think nobody watching. And tell me down in the comments, sugar, what would you have done if this happened in your family? Go ahead, speak your truth. Auntie Mae gonna be right there reading every word.